All right, we all know listening is the key to a healthy relationship, but sometimes it's easier said than done. Family therapist Jill White-Huffman joins us this morning. Jill, thank you so much for being here, and she's here to talk about ways listening can reduce stress for couples. Now, Jill, first question, why is listening so important in a relationship?
Okay, so what happens a lot of times, Marissa, is couples, when they feel like they're not being heard, then they feel really disregarded in the relationship. So they feel like the relationship is just not healthy and going well. And then a lot of times, what happens if couples are not communicating and they're just kind of, stonewalling or, pouting or thinking that their couple understands what they're saying by just giving direct um, words and not really explaining, then they feel like, they'll kind of mind read. And so we tend to mind read a lot of times. So it's really important that we sit down and that we communicate and we actually express what it is that we're trying to tell our partner, and then that our partner is attentive and able and to listen and sort of block out things so that they're attentive and present with us.
Now, you mentioned communication. What
Mhm.
happens when couples lack the ability to communicate?
Okay, so what happens when they do is that they'll feel like they're disregarded. They feel like they're not being heard again. And then the other thing is really important is, when couples come in, and the reason I say to certainly try to prevent the suffering is a lot of times they're just wanting to vent. Sometimes they don't even really want advice at that particular time. They just want to know that they have a safe place that they can actually share their feelings, that they can share their concerns. And sometimes it's not really about the relationship. Maybe they want to talk about other things that's going on. Maybe they had a hard day at work, or maybe there was something that just was not going well. And the biggest thing about couples is, like I said, they want to be heard. They don't sometimes want advice. Now, sometimes it can be extremely not helpful if one partner decides, not to be present, or they want to interject their feelings or their concerns while the other person is, say, like on a 10 or a 12. So sometimes just, being present, just being mindful and saying, you know what, I'm just going to let my partner vent. Now, when it can not healthy is when the partner who is wanting to share is sort of being verbally attackful. So, like if it's something that they're talking about that's related to the relationship and they're verbally attackful, then that's not helpful. But if the person is wanting to share, what I say is not to prevent the suffering, is that you just sit there, and you just kind of nod. You let your partner know that you're present. You're tuning off any external sounds or anything that's going on. And then what happens when that person is like really heightened because they want to share something really important to them, by you just sharing and sitting, by you just sitting there and listening, the partner that's listening, and you're nodding your head, you're sort of validating that you understand what they're saying. And then before long, you'll see your partner just kind of calming down. So again, communicating, being a partner feeling heard, being understood, us not mind reading, thinking that we are assuming, bringing assumptions into the relationship, that we actually know what our partner is saying. All of those things are extremely helpful and healthy in developing and cultivating a healthy relationship and healthy communication. And again, one of the things that most people come in complaining about is they feel like they're not being heard and understood.
Jill, all great information there. Thank you so much for joining us.